Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is how thought literally impacts our health and the connection between our thoughts and emotions and the chemistry of the body and the health impacts that that brings about. So it should be a really interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. And so good to have you here with us. And welcome to everyone else who's joining us. Today, we're speaking about how thought literally impacts our health. So, I have a podcast called Sustainability Now, and we do movie nights on Thursdays. And last night we showed an interview with Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is the father of epigenetics. And epigenetics talks about how genes are not our future written in stone, essentially, that genes are essentially a blueprint that can get activated or not based on, or modified even, based on our behavior, our behavior in terms of food and lifestyle. But what we're talking about today specifically is our behavior based on our thoughts and beliefs. And this is so in line with the constant conversation that we have about curating our stories, about taking our power back through by choosing the way we perceive the world, by shifting the lens through which we experience our lives. And the connection is that when we are experiencing particular emotions, and thoughts generate emotion, when we're experiencing particular emotions, our bodies release sets of chemicals that correlate with those emotions. So, for example, when we're in fear or when we're in stress, our bodies cultivate cortisol and all kinds of other chemicals that work on our bodies in a very literal physiological way. So when we're in fight or flight, apparently our energy, our body energy, is diverted from care of our immune system to sending blood and energy to our limbs so that we can run away. And the reason that the energy is diverted from our immune system is because at the moment the most urgent thing is to escape the threat. And the thing is that our contemporary world provides so many threats on so many fronts. At least that's the perception. Anybody who watches the news can experience that firsthand, because the news is so much about fear and upset and everything that's wrong, that it keeps us in a state of anxiety. And along with that anxiety, there are chemicals that our body manufactures that impact the well-being or our health, our general health, let's say. It's a it's a very straightforward relationship. There's nothing there's nothing woo-woo about it. It's just a straightforward relationship between emotion and mental state and physiology. And when these energies are diverted from the immune system, obviously the immune system is weakened, which leaves us susceptible to different conditions. And what happens is that in many cases, the perfect environment for activation of these latent genes that express certain predispositions to different dis-ease become activated, right? Or the stress environment provides the conditions that activate these dis-ease genes, and then show these quote unquote genetic conditions. So the genetic blueprint apparently is just that. It's a blueprint. It doesn't have to get activated. It's just a pattern, a predisposition that's there that gets activated when there's a perfect storm sort of circumstance. And so what Dr. Lipton talks about, which is just so incredibly empowering, is how by taking into our own hands our well-being, our thought, our beliefs, by actively engaging in the shaping of our beliefs and the releasing of beliefs that have been programmed into us from early in our lives, that we can take our health into hand as well. And I invite you to please go on YouTube and look up some of the interviews with Bruce Lipton. He's just a delight in his expression. He just is effervescent with joy and enthusiasm, and is brilliant in his science and his background, and he really creates quite a pragmatic bridge between science and the spiritual, or and maybe we don't even have to call it spiritual, although I believe it to be. But when we elevate our awareness and our way of thinking and our emotion and our connection to the world, and we move beyond this state of fear into a greater state of presence, we actually change our physiology, and we actually change our health profile. And we have the ability to do this. Now, he does talk quite a lot, as do we, of the programming that we receive without even being aware of it in our early lives. And the truth is that we're being programmed all the time. It's not just from the time before we're 5 or 6 or 7, we're being programmed all the time. That's what media does in so many ways. And we're being culturally conditioned all the time. Interestingly, he spoke about certain diseases that are culturally specific, which is very interesting. You know, when you think about the beliefs of different cultures and then how that might manifest in the context of dis-ease. But we all know now the dramatic impact of stress on our health and well-being. So I invite you to go and check out some of the interviews with him to get a pragmatic understanding of the connection, the literal physiological connection between our emotions, our health, and our well-being, not to mention the genetic expression that, or the mechanics of genetic expression. So, for instance, just because there's a history of a certain medical pattern within a family, it doesn't mean you're doomed to play out that pattern. It doesn't mean you are condemned to that expression in your body. It's interesting. I I have all kinds of physical expressions of autoimmune stuff that nobody else in my family has, which is really interesting. Um, I think I think that many of us are like a canary in a coal mine, that we have a sensitivity. A lot of us are highly sensitive and register stressors maybe before the broader population, maybe in a um, more direct way. And what we can look at is that as a global culture right now, we're all experiencing the impact of climate change and the awareness of that, which is kind of a low level thrumming frequency that's always there, that it has its own stress associated with it for most of us. And so to find a place of peace is very challenging. And I think it's one of the most important mandates of our time is for us to, in this atmosphere of so many threats, to find a place of peace. And that place of peace resides in presence. It resides in this moment, this specific moment. And if we can allow ourselves to be present to nature, to be present to our breath, to be present to our inner alignment, to create that inner alignment, then that also impacts our health in a very direct way. So now, perhaps more than ever, it's critically important to be cultivating practices that allow us to move into a place of calm, a place of peace and presence. It's when we are in that place of presence, in this particular moment, that we can then listen to the call of what's next, rather than the doingness, the drive to do, which is often driven by fear. When we can allow ourselves to quiet and listen, then we can be called into action. It's a very different dynamic. And the if you can feel into the difference between being driven or pushed versus being carried forward, and the push, the urgency is not dissimilar from a sense of anxiety and panic. And this is another reason why it's so important for our individual health, for our cultural health, for our global health, to be cultivating different states of being that aren't so riddled by anxiety and fear, and that aren't driven through this adrenaline soaked push to do. Part of our doingness comes from, I believe, comes from a feeling, comes from a response to a feeling of lack of control. And so we tend to jump into this doingness because it makes us feel like we're in control somehow. And if we can allow ourselves to settle into a flow of life itself, the issue of control falls away. A welcoming of the unknown, or a dance with the unknown, settling into and easing into the present moment, creates a deep shift of being. And what we can say about this is that that deep shift of being is accompanied by a whole different set of chemistry than then this urgency and push and drive has associated with it. So we're beginning, thankfully, to make a tangible connection between our thinking and our health on a genetic and chemical level. Because when we're in an environment, when we have an internal environment with chemistry that is corrosive, it's going to wear on our health, undeniably. So creating these bridges to understand that our physiology is so much a reflection of our being experience is really powerful and really profound, and it gives us, not that we need it, although some of us do, need a justification to rest, to relax, to prioritize things that bring us joy, that bring us comfort, that um, bring us calm and serenity. That in prioritizing those things, what we're doing all actually is prioritizing our health and our well-being physically, mentally, emotionally, because it's not that we can separate one from the other in any way, shape, or form. Our physiology also helps to create emotions and thoughts. Our thoughts create emotions and physiology. Our emotions also can trigger thoughts and physiology. So it's this integrated system, and we can create impact from any of these different angles to shift the very experience of our lives. And when we look at the quote unquote threats of the external environment, the way that we can rework our perception, one of the ways that we can recreate our perception is by recreating the lens through which we interpret our lives and our experience, which goes back to the notion of life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. So rather than being a victim of life happening where I have no control, where I have no input, where I'm just being bandied about by life. Oh, so funny. Rosalind, I love you so much. Rosalind says, Cafe Mira, what's on the menu today? I look forward to these morning doses of food for thought. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. Food for thought. Beautiful. So, yeah, rather than being at the effect of life and circumstance, when we allow ourselves to recognize that we can choose, that we can live beyond our programming, that we can start to make visible the unseen, the programming that we didn't even know we were subject to, when we were able to start making that visible, then we start to create our freedom from that. Then we start to be able to generate true choice, true freedom. and greater capacity and capability to affect change within ourselves and actually within the world. So curating our stories, the stories that we have about how the world is, about who we are, about the nature of things, curating our stories is actually fundamental to our health. We're making these connections that it's not just isolated thought or isolated emotion. And so, this path of self awareness, this journey toward awakening, is a journey that is incorporating all dimensions of our human experience: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It's not, they're not different camps, they're all connected. And it's all part of this marvelous mystery of life that we get to experience individually and collectively. So, with that thought, that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, I love being able to dine together at this cafe, this buffet of food for thought. Thank you so much for that, Rosalind. And until next time, as always, it's such a deep privilege and pleasure to have this opportunity to spend time together. So